Democrats are backing away from a pledge to force a vote this month over the fate of thousands of undocumented immigrants brought to this country as children, angering activists but likely averting the threat of a government shutdown at a critical moment in spending negotiations with Republicans and President Donald Trump. With a deadline of midnight Friday to pass spending legislation, dozens of Democrats had vowed to withhold support if Republicans refused to allow a vote on a measure known as the DREAM Act that would allow roughly 1.2 million immigrants to stay legally in the United States. But a group of vulnerable Democratic senators facing re-election in conservative states next year aren't willing to go that far, meaning the party is unlikely to muster the votes to block the spending bill. "We've got to get it done, but I am not drawing a line in the sand that it has to be this week versus 2 weeks from now," said Sen. Claire McCaskill, DMO, who faces re-election next year in a state that Trump won by more than 18 points. Other Democrats facing similar headwinds echoed that sentiment, including Sen's Joe Manchin, DW Virginia, and Joe Donnelly, DIND. Trump won those states by 42 and 19 percentage points, respectively. Their reluctance to enact legislation protecting Dreamers has exposed a rift among Democrats, with immigration advocates staging protests this week and accusing some Democrats of taking the party's Latino supporters for granted. "I had House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi tell me to my face that she would get this done by the end of the year," said Adrian Reyna, 26, an immigrant who arrived from Mexico at age 11 and whose work permit expires in May. Reyna is the membership director of United We Dream, the youth-led immigrant organization organizing protests. Senate Minority Leader Charles Schumer, DNY, Reyna said, looked into the eyes of our members and said he's committed to getting this done. "They cannot just tell us they are going to do something and then just drop out." The current push for immigration legislation erupted in September, after Trump vowed to end a program known as Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, or DACA, instituted by former President Barack Obama via executive action and allowing some immigrants brought into the country as children to stay legally. Since 2012, roughly 800,000 have secured permits from the government allowing them to work without fear of. Since 2012, roughly 800,000 have secured permits from the government allowing them to work without fear of. At the time, Trump declared the program unconstitutional and he challenged Congress by setting a March 5 deadline to pass legislation offering parallel protections to those provided under DACA. Schumer responded to that challenge by promising that Democrats will do everything we can to prevent President Trump's terribly wrong order from becoming reality. House Minority Leader Pelosi, D. California, said in October, "We have to do it before Christmas. That's just the way it is." But in the weeks since, both leaders have amended their wish list and are now also pushing to use the looming spending showdown to reauthorize the state children's health insurance program and devote more federal funding to cash-strapped pensions and opioid abuse programs. DACA recipients remain a top concern for House Democrats and a handful of Democratic senators, including Richard Durbin of Illinois, the second-ranking Democrat, as well as Senators mulling 2020 presidential campaigns.